Alright, hello everyone. Today I'm going to be showing you how to code a button that will explode your character. It's going to be a beginner level tutorial, and rather than walking you through the very basics of Lua, I'm just going to get you started coding, and I will touch on some of the fundamentals of Lua while working on a small project. I think it'll be a good introduction to Lua, so let's get started. Alright, so to start off with, I have this button model that I've quickly put together. It's just some parts. And I have the button itself, what we're going to click. So just to start off, I'm going to go ahead and insert a script just by clicking the plus sign next to the part that I want to insert the script into, and you just type in script and click it. It'll automatically bring it up. If not, you just double click it. And here we are, this is our script. So before we get started coding our exploding button, I did want to show you the click detector input class on the Roblox documentation. I'll add a link in the description below the video so you can read it if you'd like. It's not too long, and it is pretty informative. So this is what we'll be using to code. It provides some good functions and events that we can use. So for instance, whenever a user clicks the part, it allows us to get the user who clicks it. And this is what in particular we'll be using. So let's get started coding. Now to use this click detector object event, we do need to insert it into our button. So again, you just click the plus sign next to our button and you can type in click, and click detector will show up. So that's how you insert it into the button. And now we do want to reference it, as the documentation shows, you just need to reference it through a variable. So we'll just call ours, we'll call it my click detector. And variables are just used to store data or information or point to a part in your workspace. And this is what we'll be using for the click detector part. So to reference it, we can just do script parent click detector. So anytime you see click.parent or script.parent, it will just find the parent of the script. And then you just need to specify the child, which is click detector. Now let's go back and look at our documentation. As you see, they have referenced the click detector instance here and stored it into a variable. And then they use an event called mouse click. So you have the click detector and you have a mouse click event. If we go down here, you can read on the mouse click event, which fires when a player presses and releases the left mouse button while the cursor is hovering over the click detector parent. So in order to get this to work, we want to reference this event, which comes with the click detector. So my click detector, and to reference this event, you would do dot mouse click. So that's just referencing the event. To actually connect to this event and have code execute when this event is fired, we need to use the connect function. So all you have to do, we have the click detector, we have the event, and now we want to connect to this event. And so to do this, we want to connect it to a function. So let's create a function. A function, we can just simply type local function mouse was clicked. We can name this anything you want. This is our function we're writing, and we can just print out button was clicked. And we want to connect this function to the mouse click event. So we have this mouse was clicked function, and we can pass it into this connection here. So now, whenever someone clicks our click detector, it will fire this function, because again, we have our click detector over here, which comes with this event that we can find on the documentation over here, this mouse click event, and we connected it to our function that we wrote. So if I play it and I open up our output, the output in Roblox Studio it outputs any of our script output. We'll see here, when I click it, it'll type button was clicked, and every time I click it, it will continue to execute this function we wrote, and it will print out button was clicked. So now that we have the function that executes when the button is clicked, we want to find out the player who clicks the button, and thankfully this mouse click event will do that for us. If we go to the documentation for the click detector and scroll down to code samples, there's a code sample that includes this player parameter. And as you can see down here, this mouse click event will connect to this function with the one that they've written on clicked. And you just need to specify this player parameter right here. So thankfully, this event will automatically pass in the player who clicks the click detector. So all we need to do is type in player. And to make sure this is working, we can just type in player name. What this parameter will do is it will allow us to access this inside of our function. So this event will pass in player through the connect function, and we can just access it inside the function. So here we'll just print out the player name, and to show you that it's working, I'll just hop into play, click the button, and in our output we can see my player name. So next on the documentation, we want to look at the explosion effect. I'll also add this link in the description so you can look over it if you'd like. Basically, an explosion is an effect that is provided by Roblox that we can use in our game. And whenever an explosion is placed into the workspace, it will explode. And it will explode to a blast radius, which you can provide as some of the properties in explosion. Basically what it will do is it will just break the joints on your player, and it kills the humanoid character if they're not protected by a force field. And we'll look at this more in depth whenever we code it. We'll look at the properties and we will see this in action. So to code this explosion is actually pretty simple. All we have to do is use instance.new and assign that to a variable. So our variable will be, we'll just name it explosion. So to create an explosion, as I said, we'll use the instance.new and it'll be explosion. So now we have our explosion effect. Now for this to work, we need to assign a parent to the explosion, because right now we're just creating it, we're not placing it anywhere. It'd be like creating a script but not assigning it a parent. So whenever we create a script, its parent is button. Our click detector, its parent is the button. So we have this explosion, but we need to place it somewhere. It needs a parent. And what we'll do is we can actually get the player's character. So whenever you play a game in Roblox, you have the player, but you also have the character. And the character is actually the model in workspace. So whenever you're running around, your character is moving around in the game, but your player is different from the character. So in our code, it's passing in player, but we need the character because we want to explode the character, not the player. So to get our character, we'll just create a new variable called character. And all we have to do is type in player dot character, and that's it. So all we have to do is assign the explosion's parent to the character. And now whenever we click this button, this code will create an explosion and assign its parent to the character. So just to demonstrate, I'll click play. I'll open up my player's character and I'll click the button. And as you can see, it assigns the explosion, but we haven't specified its position. Now I can click this a bunch of times and we'll get a bunch of explosions, but they won't do anything because we need to assign where the explosion is. So this is where we're going to look at the properties of an explosion. So just like any other part or object or instance in Roblox, we can go ahead and insert one in Studio and look at its properties. So I'll go ahead and insert an explosion into workspace. We just saw it blow up, and we can look at its properties. So here we have, its parent. Right now it's set to workspace. We have its position, which right now is just at the game space's origin, 0, 0, 0. And we have blast radius, we have blast pressure, and we have explosion type. So we can change these properties manually through, Studio, clicking here. We can do it through script as well. So right now the issue was we were creating an explosion and setting its parent to the player's character, but our character wasn't at 0, 0, 0, so our character wasn't being hurt by the explosion. Now if we set the blast radius to like 1,000, it would probably be hurt by the explosion. But we don't want that. We want to set the explosion's position to the character, and we'll do that pretty easily. All we have to do is explosion dot position character, and we can just do the humanoid root part, and I'll show you what that is. So our character in our workspace, the 3D character that just walks around, it has a humanoid root part, and this is the main part of our character. This is the root part. And so if we want to create an explosion and we want it to hurt our character, we could insert it anywhere inside of our character, but I'm going to insert it into the humanoid root part because it's the main part of our character. So to set the explosion's position, we need to pass in a position, and right now we're passing in a part, the character's humanoid root part. And while that might make sense in your head to pass in a part, we need to actually pass in the position. So we're setting the explosion's position to the humanoid root part's position, and that makes sense. So if we play our game and we click the button, it'll create the explosion, parent it to our character, and it will change the explosion's position to the humanoid root part, which is right here, and you'll see it explode our character. And it kills it. So now we have the script which will explode your character. It creates an explosion, it sets its parent to your character, and it places the position of the explosion at the position of the humanoid root part, which kills your player. Now there are some ways to improve this code, and I'll do that in a later video with tables. If you don't know what tables are, I'll introduce you to those. And I'll make it to where once a player clicks the button and explodes, it can't keep clicking the button, because that could be an issue. But that's something I'll get into in a later video, and I'll introduce you into tables and if statements, which are pretty nifty whenever you're coding.